After losing in the NBA Finals to the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks have a lot of questions going into this offseason. They have obviously one of the best backcourts in the NBA in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and both of those guys are all-star caliber players, and Luka is an MVP caliber player. And even though Kyrie is on the wrong side of 30, he still is an elite player, and he is still locked up for this coming up season, and then he has a player option in 2025, 2026, and Luka is locked up for 2 more seasons and then has a player option in 26, 27. And this backcourt duo will have at least one more shot at making a run for the championship, but the Dallas Mavericks need to make some huge changes to this roster and lineup for them to have a real shot of making it back to the finals and ending up winning the finals next season or the year after. And one of those changes that they're going to have to make is getting more depth scoring and depth defending outside of Luka and Kyrie. And this NBA Finals run was the Luka and Kyrie show, and you had spot performances from other guys, but those were the 2 guys carrying the biggest load, obviously, and no one else really stepped up. PJ Washington did have 13 points a game on decent shooting splits and averaged 6.6 rebounds a game, but when your third scorer is only averaging 13 points a game and then no one else is averaging over 10 points a game, that is a huge problem on a championship contending team. And if you look at Boston had 5 guys averaging over 10 points a game, and then Al Horford and Peyton Pritchard, as well as Sam Hauser, could come off the bench and give you buckets. So the Boston Celtics need to find guys that can maybe not be a superstar level player, but give them solid role depth. And one guy that I thought was going to do that for them coming into this season was Tim Hardaway, but in 14 games that he played over the playoff run, he only played 12 minutes a game, averaging 4.5 points a game. And that is obviously not acceptable for a guy that is getting paid as much as he does. He's the 3rd highest paid player on the team. And at 32 years old, going into next season, he's getting paid $16.2 million a year. And they're going to have to try to clear up that cap space or get more production out of Tim Hardaway Jr. because that was not an acceptable playoff run from a guy like Tim Hardaway, because if you look at almost any other team that has won a championship or made a finals appearance, their third option is averaging more than 4.5 points a game in the playoffs, or their 3rd highest paid player at least. And the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to go out and either in the draft somebody that's going to give you spot buckets, or go out in free agency or throughout a trade over this offseason and get a guy that can be a valuable contributor on both ends of the floor. If you look at the Boston Celtics, there's 2 guys in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, similar to what the Mavericks have in Luka and Kyrie, and I'd actually argue that Luka and Kyrie are the better duo. But what sets the Celtics apart is that they have guys like Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Kristaps Porzingis that all average a high points per game average. And these guys all could give you buckets at any given time. Kristaps Porzingis can shoot the 3 at a above average rate, especially for a 7'3" player. Derek White and Drew Holiday each had moments in the NBA Finals where they were elite offensively, and both of them were locking up Kyrie throughout this entire NBA Finals series. And it's going to take one of those guys or one of those kind of players, like a Derek White, like a Drew Holiday, or like a Kristaps Porzingis, who can play their role very well, for the Dallas Mavericks to go get over the edge and be a real contender next season. And I think that this year they had an amazing run, but for this kind of success to be sustainable, you cannot rely on 2 guards, and they'll need a much better big man play throughout this next postseason run if they want to have this similar success to what they had this year. Derek Lively was a very valuable option, especially defensively, but he only averaged 8 points per game and 7.5 rebounds a game. Rebounding the basketball and blocking shots were his main specialties, but they need a guy at center or even at power forward that can average about 15 points a game and just run the pick and roll effectively with Luka and Kyrie. They don't need another superstar. They don't need Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. But if they can get a solid center that can play as a third option on this team, they will be much better off going into next season, because their center play is what really got them killed down the end of the playoff run, especially against Boston, where Kristaps Porzingis in games 1, 2, and 3 came out and absolutely battered them, because Derek Lively is a great interior defender, but he is not a great perimeter defender yet, and he's still young. But when Kristaps Porzingis brought him out of the paint, he struggled a lot more defensively, and his shot blocking abilities were very much limited. So the Boston Celtics were able to exploit Dallas on defense, and Luka Doncic had one of his worst stretches defensively in the NBA during the finals. And he needs to be better defensively, as he was getting blown by left and right. And if the Dallas Mavericks really want to make a deep playoff run going into next year, they're going to have to get perimeter defenders, and they're going to have to get depth scoring. Those are the two biggest things that they lacked throughout this entire playoff run, and is the reason why I think that the Boston Celtics dominated the Mavericks the way that they did 4 out of the 5 games in the NBA Finals. And guys that I could see them going after are guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, who's an elite shooter from the outside as a wing player and can give you that 15 to 18 points per game and just knock down shots when needed, and a guy who also doesn't need the ball in his hands as much as a Luka or a Kyrie. Anyways, let me know who you think the Dallas Mavericks should pick up this offseason, and make sto subscribe to the channel, as I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. God bless you all. I hope you have an amazing day.